China, healthcare, and nuclear power. Taiwan's presidential candidates are talking policy with the public.
Here at the China in the World conference, regional political leaders are sharing their experiences of standing up to the China threat.
We're on the ground at the closely watched but tightly guarded TSMC site in Phoenix, Arizona, to scope out how the record $40 billion project is going.
Plus, a temple god gets a birthday to remember in one of Taipei's oldest traditions. Good evening and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. Thanks for joining us. There are just 39 days to go until Taiwan goes to the polls. With time running out to win over undecided voters, two campaigns have revealed new policies. John Van Trieste brings us this election update.
It's a classic whistle-stop campaign appearance for DPP presidential candidate Lai Ching-te. In Taiwan, temple events like these are the perfect chance to meet ordinary people. There's just over a month until the election, and Lai's here on a chilly Taipei day to drum up support. His message is one his party has long promoted, stopping China's long-held ambition to take control of Taiwan by invading if necessary. Lai is not the only one using the time-tested temple approach. Taiwan People's Party candidate Ko Wen-je is visiting one in the outlying Penghu Islands. This is an area where resources, including medical resources, are limited. It's an issue Ke, a former surgeon, understands well. He says he's got a plan for improving medical care here.
其实医疗应该要整合来，我觉得那个医院太分散了，整合起来会有比较才有办法维持那种比较高科技的医疗。
He also says he has plans for better transport and better long-term care for senior citizens and people with disabilities. The Kuomintang is also presenting new policy ideas. Top of the list is mental health care for young people. Both candidate Hou Youyi and his running mate Zhao Xiaokong say it's a topic they've been thinking about since they first met. On April 27, 1998, a 34-year-old mentally ill man armed with knives hijacked a bus, taking around 20 hostages. Hou Youyi, then deputy head of the Criminal Investigation Bureau, was called to the scene. Media personality Zhao Xiaokong was also there to help negotiate. With help from others, the hostages were released and the crisis was resolved. Looking back years later, Hou says mental health in the country still needs addressing. He says the limited free counseling sessions offered to 15 to 30-year-olds don't go far enough. Meanwhile, Zhao's taken aim at the ruling DPP's plan to phase out nuclear power. He says nuclear is the way the rest of the world is going. At this appearance with Hou in southern Taiwan, in areas spotted with fish farms, he criticized the growing number of solar panels taking over what used to be fish ponds.
为了把核废掉，天然气增加，然后呢，绿电来不及就到处种，所以你为了这个光电的利益，你让渔民的利益损失嘛。
Personality and party loyalty have been big factors in this campaign. But with time running out to appeal to undecided voters, the candidates are starting to go heavy on policy, finally letting voters know what it is they'll be voting for. Chris Ma and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Meanwhile, prosecutors in Taipei are looking at whether the Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party broke election rules during the coalition talks last month. A proposed joint ticket never emerged because the talks collapsed. But a complaint alleges that the two sides offered each other bribes in return for concessions while the talks were going on. Both KMT presidential candidate Hou Youyi and TPP candidate Ko Wen-je are listed in that complaint. Both parties say the investigation is political, with the Ke's party calling it a waste of resources. The complaint was filed by a fringe political group that supports Taiwan independence. Regional politicians and analysts are warning about China's rising global influence. Several sounded the alarm at the China in the World conference here in Taipei. Rick Lau reports.
It's just over a month until national elections here in Taiwan, and all eyes are on China's influence and infiltration of that crucial vote. Here at the China in the World conference, regional political leaders and experts are sharing their experiences of that China threat, whether it's military and economic coercion, cyber attacks or cognitive warfare. In his opening remarks, Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu had this warning.
Taiwan faces Chinese coercion and gray zone tactics on a daily basis. We are not only the constant target of China's intimidation and political coercion, but also a testing ground for China's cognitive warfare.
From visiting politicians from the Philippines, South Korea and Japan, we're hearing a growing sense of urgency in the need to stand up against China's attempts to destabilize the region. Taiwan's message is we are on the front line, but you could be next. Alex Chen and Rick Lowett in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's top weapons developer has started building a drone factory in the country's south. President Tsai Ing-wen broke ground at the site on the Zhongshan Institute's Jiayi campus. The over $30 million facility will make both recon and attack drones after construction finishes in 2025. Experts say these unmanned aircraft could help deter an attack from China.
风群无人机它可以去同时去攻击这个敌人目标里面非常多的一些设施，比如说它的雷达，比如说它一些指挥所、通信站，乃至于停在地面的比如说军机。 或者是船舰的一些部分，或者是物资的堆积场。
Chip giant TSMC's $40 billion site in Arizona has caught global attention and attracted a lot of scrutiny. With its grand opening already delayed, our reporter Joyce Tseng went to visit the site to see what's at stake.
From the front, leading Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC's new site in Arizona looks almost complete. But the back suggests otherwise. The $40 billion plant was supposed to start pumping out high-end chips next year to meet the demand of giants like Apple and Nvidia for next-gen smartphones and AI tech. But all that's been delayed a whole other year.
We are encountering certain challenges, as there is an insufficient amount of skilled workers with those specialized expertise required.
Those comments have not sat well with some local unions, who say the problem has been the mismanagement of a project that is one of the largest foreign investments ever in American history.
This is where TSMC is building its chip factories or fabs in North Phoenix, about a 30-minute drive from the city center. Now, it's been 3 years since the big project reveal, and despite projections, the site is far from finished.
Speaking to TaiwanPlus, some contractors on site said they didn't even know there was a labor problem and that they rarely heard directly from the Taiwanese giant. TSMC declined TaiwanPlus's requests for comment. There's a lot at stake here in Arizona. TSMC makes almost all of the world's most advanced chips, a critical asset some have called a silicon shield for self-ruled Taiwan, which China claims as its own and has threatened to invade. Growing tensions in the Taiwan Strait and the U.S. and China's ongoing battle for tech supremacy threatens to disrupt the global supply of these chips. Securing TSMC's advanced nodes on U.S. soil crucially helps mitigate that risk. Industry experts say it's also a significant tech boost for sectors beyond consumer electronics like bioscience and defense.
Clients for advanced node are these major defense companies. There is that pressure from the clients that are looking to diversify because they don't want to be in a supply chain where there is a high risk. The China and Taiwan tension poses that risk.
By being in Arizona, TSMC is now neighbors with American military tech customers Honeywell Aerospace and Raytheon Missiles and Defense, the makers of some of the weapons needed to defend Taiwan. The stakes are high for TSMC to be successful here, as expectations from business partners, innovators, and national security leaders mount for TSMC chips made in the USA. Justin Wu and Joyce Tseng in Phoenix, Arizona for TaiwanPlus.
And as TSMC and other chip firms expand their businesses in Arizona, finding enough of the right talent is a big challenge. Join us tomorrow as Joyce visits a community college prepping Arizonans to land a job in high-tech chips in just 10 days. Now, it is the third and final day of the Qingshan Temple pilgrimage, one of Taipei's largest religious events. And the city's Wanhua district is celebrating what locals consider a little New Year. A big party for a deity's birthday. It's the last day of the Manga Qingshan Temple's 3-day pilgrimage. And many temples in Taipei's Wanhua district have geared up to welcome King Qingshan. The ceremony dates back over a century and is recognized as one of Taipei City's intangible cultural assets. The tradition arose because people in Wanhua believe the deity wards off illness and drives away evil spirits. That belief continues up until today. The district was an epicenter of the deadly SARS outbreak of 2003. At that time, the temple held a parade like this to address residents' fear of the then unknown disease. Unlike other temple pilgrimages that often travel long distances around Taiwan, King Qingshan only patrols this one district.
尊王是我们地方的守护神，这样，大家都非常欢迎他来。然后现在结合有一些南部的宫庙一起上来，会越来越热闹。
The Qingshan Temple celebration is one of the top 3 religious ceremonies in Taipei. It's so significant that all 3 presidential candidates made an appearance to pay tribute. But most importantly, the event preserves Wanhua's cultural identity. Every year around this time, locals expect to see performers representing different deities walking the streets, free food on offer at local temples, and firecrackers going off all around the district. And many residents wouldn't dream of missing it.
我自己觉得这是个宗教信仰，是给我们很鼓励、很正面的一环。当我们有时候很无助的时候，我觉得这一环是给我们信心。
我从小时候就开始走这个正统了，对，走到已经长大了，然后就是有什么活动，我们就会去参加。
With a party this big, there's little doubt King Qingshan will happily watch over Wanhua District for years to come. The newly opened Taipei Dome has apparently sprung a leak. Spectators at the Asian Baseball Championship game between the Philippines and Thailand spotted water dripping down from the roof. The dome's builder, Far Glory Group, says the leaks came from poorly connected water pipes. It's the latest in a long line of problems for the dome, which just opened to the public 7 years later than planned. Coming up after the break, why China has sent a swarm of fishing boats into disputed seas.
We bring you stories from Taiwan.
Every day of the week.
Our reporters travel the nation.
Exploring the issues that matter to you.
News from here in Taiwan and around the world.
What's up, Taiwan? On TaiwanPlus.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, follow us on social media or download the TaiwanPlus app.
At a time when the world feels more divided, a platform for diverse voices to come together. I'm Divi Gopalan. Join the dots. Be part of the conversation. Connected where opinions matter.
I'm Joyce Tseng in Bangkok, Thailand, and you're watching TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world. Charted by the freest country in Asia.
5, 4, 3, 2.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Ian Kavat. Taiwanese semiconductor giant TSMC.
Public buses to be electric by 2030. A mission that begins with listening.
And telling the stories of Taiwan.
in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Drawing insight from original thinkers
and sharing it with the world. TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Start your weekend with a cup of coffee and a moment to reflect on what happened this week.
Hello and welcome.
We've got you covered, from defense and politics to high tech and the arts.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
You make the coffee,
we make the news.
Here's what happened on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. The Philippines has accused China of illegally sending over 100 ships to an area of the South China Sea that's claimed by both countries. It's the latest escalation in a long-running dispute in one of the world's most contested regions. Jaime Okan reports.
More than 100 ships from China's maritime militia lined up in the South China Sea. These images, released by Philippines Coast Guard, show dozens of ships grouped together, crowding a reef held by the Philippines. Manila says it's alarmed by the presence of these ships, but Beijing says there's nothing to see here.
中方渔船在该海域作业必封合理合法，非方不应该说三道四。
For the past few months, the Philippines and China have gone back and forth over disputes in these waters. The South China Sea is rich in natural resources, and more than a third of global trade passes through it, making the sea very valuable to whoever controls it. Beijing says that all of the sea belongs to China, and it tries to prevent neighboring countries like the Philippines from defending their own claims. Recently, Beijing has stepped up efforts to prevent Manila from resupplying this ship, the Sierra Madre, on the Second Thomas Shoal. It's the wreck of a World War II ship the Philippines intentionally beached there in 1999. It's an outpost guarded by a small group of Marines.
The Philippines has a permanent presence there. The Chinese, however, have been making ever assertive attempts to blockade the shoal and deprive the Philippine soldiers there of necessities, and they want to drive them out.
China has been looking to fortify and reaffirm its so-called nine-dash line claim, a claim that was rejected by a court of arbitration in 2016 and having no legal basis. Despite this, Beijing has created several artificial islands and continues to develop them into fully operational military bases, not only equipped with missiles, but functional runways for military aircraft. Analysts say that the latest show of force involving the dozens of ships is just the latest attempt by Beijing to assert its claims.
Their main purpose is to act as something of a floating marker of Chinese sovereignty. And so oftentimes, they don't have to build a new artificial island. They can just have this row of ships that just lets everyone know that China belongs here.
That's why the Philippines has been looking to its allies and partners for help to manage the increased aggression from China, conducting joint Coast Guard patrols with the US and Japan, and trying to integrate more with other militaries to enforce its own claims.
Joint patrol with the US and then demonstrates that the Philippines is being successful in building its network of allies and partners that are willing to go out to sea with them. And so that now that when China looks at the Philippines, it doesn't just see a small country that it can push around, but it sees a small, well-connected country that has friends.
But as Beijing continues to ramp up the number of ships it sends out as maritime militia, it's yet to be seen if the Philippines and its allies will be able to prevent Beijing from enforcing de facto control of the South China Sea. Joyce Tseng and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
Now, as regional tensions grow, especially between Taiwan and China, residents on one of Japan's outlying islands fear that it could become a refuge for Taiwanese, and they warn that they are not prepared. Louise Watt reports.
Itokazu Kenichi, the mayor of Japan's westernmost island, Yonaguni, fears being caught up in a conflict between China and Taiwan. He's worried how his small island could deal with an influx of Taiwanese refugees. He's asked the government and says Tokyo has no plan.
みんな黙っこくちゃいますよ。もうみんな頑張ってる。
Yonaguni Island is about 100 kilometers from Taiwan and is the closest part of Japan to the country. It has fewer than 2,000 people. Residents and officials fear there wouldn't be enough emergency supplies if Taiwanese flee to Yonaguni by boat should a war break out.
本当に1日2日の行李じゃないかなと思いますよね。
Fears have grown of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, which is claimed by Beijing. In recent years, China has increased military activity around Taiwan, threatening to take it by force. Japan, which neighbours Taiwan and is wary of China, is increasing defence spending. Japan's top military officer says he believes the country would have to offer a firm humanitarian response if a refugee crisis is triggered.
で大事なことは、それは自衛隊だけでできることではなくて、政府全体で行うということですので、それをどのようにしっかり行っていくかということは、これからしっかり政府の全体の中で検討が進められていくものだというふうに認識をしています。
But officials on this remote island aren't convinced. They're worried that war could be getting closer. And with no clear humanitarian plan in place, they would struggle to deal with an unprecedented crisis. Dolphine Chen and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
South Korea's defense ministry says it's launched a rocket carrying a satellite to be used for environmental monitoring. It's the South's third rocket launch since March last year. It comes amid a growing space race with North Korea after Pyongyang launched its first military spy satellite in November. In Thailand, 14 people were killed in a bus crash in a western province about 3 hours from the capital, Bangkok. Over 30 people were also injured after the driver lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a tree. Authorities haven't confirmed the cause of the accident yet. Thailand does have one of the world's highest rates of road accidents, with thousands of deaths reported every year. Climate scientists say 2023 is set to be a record-breaking year for global carbon emissions. Sally Jensen has the story.
As delegates from around the world gather in Dubai for COP28 to draw up a roadmap for humanity's relationship with the planet, an annual report tracking global carbon emissions highlights progress made or not made in the last year.
Many European countries, France, Germany, the UK, but also the US, Japan, Brazil, for the fossil emissions, they decreased their emissions. Emissions are still growing quite a lot in Southeast Asia, India, China this year.
New research shows carbon emissions from fossil fuels, instead of going down, have broken records in 2023. The Global Carbon Project, an international team of more than 120 scientists, found that projected annual CO2 emissions have grown 1.1% over last year to a record high of 37.5 billion metric tons, with China and India leading the increase. The majority of total emissions still comes from fossil fuels, as countries need energy to power economic growth. But most of this year's increase in emissions come from deforestation for crop and animal cultivation.
We also emit CO2 with land use change, mainly deforestation in the tropics, primarily. So broad pictures like 36 come from fossil fuel burning, and about 4 billion tons per year come from deforestation.
These rising emissions are not the direction the world should be going in, scientists say, if we hope to avoid the benchmark limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming and further climate breakdown.
And as long as they're not brought down to zero, then the warming is going to continue. We have seen some progress, but the progress is at the moment not substantial enough.
The question remains whether economies and industry can continue growing if we are to reduce CO2 emissions. But with the report saying there's a 50% chance we will breach the 1.5 degree limit in 7 years, humanity is quickly burning through the time it has left to find the answer. Patrick Chen, Rhys Ayres and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
Researchers in central Taiwan have developed a new device they say can detect Alzheimer's disease in just 2 minutes. Tiffany Wong takes a look.
A drop of blood, a device the size of a flash drive, and just 2 minutes. This is all medical researchers in central Taiwan say you need to detect Alzheimer's disease. They've created a new medical device that can quickly analyze blood samples for indications of Alzheimer's, with an accuracy of up to 80%.
它就像是一个刷子，经过修饰以后，数据呢，它会往上往下去告诉人家说，现在阿兹海默的级别。
Alzheimer's is one of the most common forms of dementia, a debilitating brain disease with no cure. It's one of the world's leading causes of death. Experts say early diagnosis is key to getting patients the treatment they need. And that starts with making tests for the disease more accessible.
如果说可以在血液里面用这个任何的电子元件侦测等等我相信在未来在地区的医院或者是在甚至卫生所，如果可以做这样的检测，有问题的病人再转到医院来做这个进一步的检查，我想这个是未来应该是应用最好的一个区域。
Alzheimer's is also a costly disease, sometimes requiring full-time care. Developers say they want to keep diagnostic costs low to intervene earlier and slow the progression of the disease.
目前中国以他们的正子造影的行情价大概是4万5，目片的成本目前估算大概是200块，资源可以投入的话，希望可以压到低于100块。
Currently, the tests are still in development and undergoing clinical trials at a local hospital. But researchers hope it will soon be widely available to help address the challenges of Taiwan's quickly aging population. Dolphine Chen and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us here on Taiwan Plus News. Finally, get ready for the holidays with this Christmas parade in Chile celebrating 100 years of Disney. I'm Eric Gao, and we'll see you later.